I have done 2 hospital births and I've done 2 home births now. So I hope to compare them for you and to really help you make the best decision for your family. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is that the whole driving part of it. When you are birthing at home, you get to stay at home and you can just call the midwives. The midwives come to you and they can wait around as you're having labor, help you work through stuff. Whereas with a hospital birth, you have to drive to the hospital. And for me, that was just a lot of extra stress of just, do we go to the hospital yet? Is it time? You don't want to wait too long. As you progress, your contraction gets stronger, so it gets harder. With our first baby, I just went bam right into active labor and I had no idea how I was going to get in the car to drive to the hospital. So I ended up actually having our doula come to me and then she helped us get in the car and get to the hospital. So to me, like not having to drive and that whole waiting and then getting to the hospital and saying, no, you're not far enough, go back home, that whole thing, that really reduced the stress for me a lot. And just when I can stay at home and they'll come to me. The second thing is that you're so much more in control of your the atmosphere and being able to create a relaxing atmosphere in your home than you are in a hospital. And so being able to relax during your contractions, try to relax during your contractions, is so huge to helping them progress better. And everything within you wants to tensen up and it's really hard to relax. And so just being able to create some of those relaxing elements in your home, as far as like we had our lamps on. It was evening, so the sun had set. We just had lamps on, so everything was kind of dim, very peaceful. I got a playlist. I did JJ Heller and just really put on a lot of her mummy songs, which was fantastic. I ended up like crying through the contractions. All these mummy songs came on, and I was just reminded of why you are doing what you're doing and the whole goal of the pain that you are going through, that at the end it will be worth it. So being able to create a playlist that helps you through it is really huge. Dallas made some tea for me, and so I was able to, have my tea there. And so I just think that's really huge. Is in a hospital, you're not going to have that. Number 3 is that you get to sleep and stay in your own bed, and I think this is huge just because who likes to sleep in a hospital bed? And the reality is, you already have a newborn that's getting up in the night because they need to eat. And so, having the extra noise of the hospital and all the nurses coming in and checking on you, I really did not get a good night's sleep being in the hospital. And for my daughter, we ended up spending the night 2 nights because she was born at midnight. So, they wanted 24 hours, right? So we had 2 nights, and so by the time you come home, you're just exhausted. Whereas when we do a home birth, you can stay in your own bed, you sleep in your own bed, and you don't have to get up and go anywhere. And that is huge just in terms of helping your body heal, being able to relax and get your rest at the very beginning when you have that new baby, not getting too tired right off the bat. Number 4 is that being at home, you're able to use your bathtub in terms of getting in and out of your bathtub if you feel like that's going to help you with labor. I've used a hot bath more in the terms of early labor to help me. I really don't have any desire to do a water birth or like later in pregnancy when I'm in active labor. But that early labor, the bathtub is really fantastic to be able to relax your muscles and help keep you so you're not so tense at that early labor. If you're doing a hospital water birth, you would have access to that. So that would potentially be a pro for home. It could be you could have it at a hospital too with a water birth, but um, to me, I wasn't planning a water birth, so having access to my tub for just the early labor was a pro. Okay, so those are 4 of my pros for being at home. Now let's switch and let's talk about some of the cons of being at home. One of the things that kept me from wanting to do a home birth at first was just thinking about the mess in my home and not wanting to go through birth and having to deal with that. But the reality with that, this didn't end up being much of a con in the end because the midwives make it so easy. And it's really like only like, I think like a dozen things you need to get ready, like a bunch of towels, washcloths, they want like waterproof a waterproof sheet for your bed, like a shower curtain or something like that. It's really not that much. It's a lot of waterproof stuff and towels and whatever. And so they clean it all up, and it's really like throwing a load of laundry. And so I can understand how this can be a con for some people and a barrier to wanting to do a home birth. But the reality is I found like the midwives really take care of it, and it ended up not being a big deal for having a home birth. And yeah, and it's really honestly, you're in labor, you're not really thinking about it, and then you have a new baby and you're not thinking about it, and before you know it, everything was cleaned up. So that's one thing to think about, but I think that for me, it ended up being way easier than I thought it was going to be. So the number two con for me was just that I was worried about not having access to emergency care being at home. And I didn't want to be in the middle of labor and needing care, or having a new baby, needing care and not being able to get it in time. But this was really put myself at ease when I talked to the midwives and realized, they have suction, they have oxygen. If you tear, if you have like a basic tear, they can stitch you up. They really had all the basic things that you would need in most situations, and that really, really put me at ease as far as being able to do a home birth. So then that brings me to the third con, and that is the sense of if you had to have like an emergency surgery or something, you'd have to be rushed to the hospital. It's obviously not something that the midwives could do at home. But at the same time, I felt like for the level of care that they are able to provide, the emergency surgery is a very small chance, and there's a hospital close by. So if you needed that, you'd be able to get there, um, fairly quickly. And so for the most part, anything that's going to come up, the midwives had you covered, right? And the fourth thing that is a con is it depends on what you want to do for pain management. And a midwife can't give you an epidural. So if that's important to you, then you might want to be thinking about a hospital birth. But the reality is for me, I prefer to do more natural methods of pain management. And so that's never been a problem for me, is that I've been able to find other ways to really cope with the pain through the labor. And I would prefer to do that just because I feel like I can feel more what my body's doing and be able to respond better in terms of birth. And so for me, an epidural is not a big deal. But if that is for you, then you might want to consider hospital birth. So I hope that helped. I hope you can really weigh out those pros, those cons, and you can make the best decision for you. The biggest thing is just being at a place where you feel like it's the right place for you and can help you be the most relaxed and at peace when you're giving birth. And that's really the biggest thing. You can have all the best plans. You can have it laid out perfectly in your mind how you want your birth to go. But the reality is it's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to have a baby. And, if you can figure out the things that are the most important to you and try to keep those and let the other things, if they need to, slide. The biggest thing is just to keep in your mind, the goal is for you to be healthy and the baby to be healthy in the end. And it's really such a short amount of time, even though in the moment it feels like an eternity, that it goes by, and in the end it will be worth it. See his little nose?
I saw his little ears.
There's his ear. There's another ear.